Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Automated Advantage. Today we have Victoria on. Victoria, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company?
Well, hello, Greg. Thank you for having me, first of all. And hello, everyone. Uh, my company is Heart and Soul CEO, and we work with business owners that have hit an inflection point and want to create a company that makes impact that actually aligns with authenticity.
So tell us, okay, then that's very interesting, and so maybe a little bit more specific in, who you're looking to, type of company, and then the specifics of how you engage and what you actually help with.
Okay, so the way we engage and the type of company that we work with is, first of all, with business owners who have had their company for a while. They've been established typically 3 years and beyond. And we help with bringing the mindset as well as integrating the way their company works, the way things operate. So basically, when we're looking at what we're doing, in a business, as a business owner, we have a certain perspective. And today, in the day of AI, it's very difficult to navigate the waters right now because we're human beings. And what I help them with is to stay human in this world of AI and automation and the new technologies coming up. And what that looks like is about taking a new perspective, looking for the opportunities, seeing what's in the way, what's not, and then looking at how do we integrate who we are as a business owner. As a business owner, what most people don't realize is that the way their company operates, the way it shows up in the world, is actually a reflection of them. It's also in larger companies with CEOs. The values of the company reflect where you are, not necessarily what you say. And then we help set up the structures so that everything can be in place and be in alignment so that companies are stable, sustainable, and growth oriented as well. And so that's just a high level summary. It really is about integrating being human and having the structures and everything integrated in place to be able to grow.
Yeah, and is there a specific size of company, a specific individual you're looking for? You said CEOs, so I'm assuming so leaders of businesses, but does it matter for
Mhm.
the size? What's the ideal size for you?
Well, the ideal size is where you have three to 25 employees. I also work with a solopreneur who wants to step into growing their company and making sure it's aligned with who they are and the impact that they want to make in the world. Because we all have a purpose. And what often happens in growth and when the company becomes established, there's a pattern that actually just sets there. And so that pattern can be complacency. Here we are, and then something happens. How do we navigate that? And so I help with that. But I also work with the solopreneurs. But primarily the sweet spot is those with 3 to 25 employees. And one of the things I do with my clients, which actually fits with what you do, is I help them navigate who do they talk to as they change systems. Because to align your business, you've got to be able to have your systems align with you. And so often they're not aligned because it's historical. It's legacy systems, things that just got patched together and don't really work very well or effective. And human beings want to be effective, and productivity is great. But if you don't have systems that are efficient, it doesn't work very well.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I think it's a fair comment, and I appreciate you, suggesting what we're doing, and that's what we're finding, right? At the end of the day, solopreneurs, small businesses, the size that you're talking about, we tend to be able to talk really well about AI. We talk really well about process, but at the same time, I don't think we often, implement it ourselves to be able to be more efficient. And I think that's a massive key component, because the time suck for everything you need to do as an entrepreneur, as a founder of a growing business, gets overwhelming. And so I see setting up and having a foundation, and then building on the foundation and making sure your processes are efficient, and then you can automate them. Is I'm assuming you're seeing a lot of that.
Oh, yes. Well, one of the things is because I came out of the tech world myself before I started my business, is there's this saying, garbage in, garbage out. And if your processes aren't identified, and even before your processes are identified, it's like, what is the outcome that you want? And be able to get there. And that works with systems that are human systems as well as technology systems, because technology only works as good as the humans behind it.
Yeah, it's funny you said the second person I've had that conversation with today that talked about the whole, setting up your system, knowing what the outcome is, and then being in consulting for the last, doing big transformational projects for large enterprises. That was always my going in point. It's like, listen, transactions are transactions. And what do you want to get out of the system? And then you build it according to that. So it's the second time somebody said that today. So it must be a theme.
Yes, it's a theme. Well, and it's so true. It doesn't matter what size you are in your business, and the small to medium have a tendency to just kind of throw everything at what they're doing based on what they heard, right? Not necessarily based on, will this work for me? And I think
Right.
that's a process where, as consultants and coaches, that we have to be aware of how to really look at things so that the systems can really support the business and what you want to do with it. And it really is about that clarity of the vision, the mission, the values. All of it goes into play. And then will somebody use your technology when you bring it up? I've seen that
Yeah.
happen before is, you can go in and help somebody set up a system the way that they want it to be set up, but nobody in the company will use it that way, including them.
Yeah, welcome to the history of my world. Exactly, spending millions and then not adopting best practices and having a better idea. Um, so you talked about being in corporate world. So let's rewind just a little bit. What was the impetus to start the business? You're sitting there at the kitchen table going, I think I've got a brilliant idea. Or how did this come about?
Well, when I was in corporate, I was a business analyst, cross-functional facilitator, so change management systems and things like that across different divisions of the business I would facilitate because I worked in IT. My primary client within the company was marketing, and there were things. IT was growing at the time. The company had, when I started, had 90 employees, and so getting it ready to scale there. But as I was going through my years in my last company, which is the one I'm talking about, I wasn't very happy with my work there. I loved what I actually did, but the company itself, as I later discovered in my own self exploration, was not values aligned with me. And in that process of that discovery, I got a coach I got a life coach to see what I wanted to do. And it turns out, that it's like, oh, I'm doing a lot of this in my company where I'm doing my facilitation and process facilitation. So I went, oh, I'll add this skill. And then I decided I'm going to go off and be my own consultant and coach combination. So It was like, and I got certified as a coach with my skills, and it was like it added tools to my toolbox. And when I was in corporate, I was one of those people that was kind of an intrapreneur in the company. Nobody could figure out where to exactly place me. I just, I was just doing my thing. I'd mediate, I'd facilitate, and I'd do process. So that's how I ended up going, okay, I can do this. And I didn't want to stick with the tech at that time. That just wasn't tech I can do sometimes with my eyes closed, but it's not my technology is not my passion. However, I love connecting with people like you and engaging people with my clients so so that they have the right technology. That is so important to have the right technology and the right people doing the right things for the right reasons.
And I think, I mean, I appreciate that. And again, I think that that's, this misconception or this, in the past, it's like people, it's finding, what is it called? Finding a sledgehammer to hit a nail in a piece of wood. But the people feel like and I'm going to use an example, like, hey, I need a CRM solution. It's like, well, do you? Like, the question is really, what's your process? What are you looking to do? To go back to your point earlier about starting with the end in mind. And maybe you don't. Maybe you just need a spreadsheet, right? At the end of the day, it's the process, and then finding the right solution to be able to enable the process. And I mean, that's what I think a lot of what you're saying, and what you're helping clients kind of demystify, that you don't always need some elaborate tool. You just need a fixed process, and then if a tool can fit and enable that, then I think that's the next step.
Exactly. And it starts from what do you want? And what that outcome we were talking about earlier is what do you want? Ultimately, what do you want your business to look like? What are the steps to get there? And who do you need to become to go there? Because
Yeah.
as business owners, as CEOs, you can't grow your company to a new level without growing yourself. And so many people try to do it to go to the next level from where they are. And you have to incorporate who you are in the process. And maybe how you're showing up isn't who you really are.
Yeah, I think that's and it's interesting thing is, and you keep triggering things, and it's. I was talking to somebody the other day about this business that I'm doing, right? And we bought into a model, and people tell you, like, get on a call, close the deal, and I'm like, I don't know that I want to be that person. I've never been that person. I've always been a relationship person, and they're like, well, your business is not going to scale to where you want it to be as fast as you want it to be, and part of me sits down and says, maybe that's okay, because then I'm bringing on clients that I want to bring on. I'm being authentic. People are trusting the individual. This is not a volume play. It's a relationship play. And I feel like a lot of people are out there just thinking that there's a quick buck to be made, but you're not. I don't feel like you're putting your authentic self out there. Thoughts on that?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Because today, where the world is going, that quick buck that you just got to push for the sale is is disappearing. That's old school. It really is the authentic relationships like you're trying to build there. It is about the relationship. It's got to have that transparency. One of my mentors has said, and I love it, is that every conversation, every sales conversation you have is really a conversation to help the person that you're talking to get to clarity. All you're doing is bringing them to clarity. And it could be a no. It's not about trying to get a yes and make a sale. It's about, yes, I can help you, or no, this isn't a right fit for you or for them. And it's coming to that place. And that's what's authentic in sales, is really looking at what do your prospective clients want? Are you a good match for them? Are they a good match for you? And Can you really help them? Not to the point of just a sale for a sale. You end up with less cancellations, less refunds, everything when you come from that authentic relationship. And you have raving fans who absolutely love you and you love them. And that's what counts.
It's and again, it's such an interesting comment because I was working with a person the other day who started up a business and they were selling an online piece of technology that was literally $25 to sign up and get this tool. And he wanted me to help him with some outreach. And I went and I did the math, and I literally I went back to him and said, I could take your money, but I don't think this is a good way to spend your money. I'm happy to do it. And he was quite adamant that he wanted me to do it. And I kept educating him on how the math equation was just not in his favor to be able to do it. And he finally came around and said, "Oh, I appreciate that." So we never did business, but what came out of that, he gave me 3 referrals to people that said, "Hey, this guy's like he's legit, like he's here to help you." And I feel like sometimes that's as authentic as anything else. Is just saying, "Look, I'd love to take your money if you want to give it to me, but I just don't think it's right."
Yeah, exactly. And that's a beautiful example of being authentic and ethical, right? I think we bring ethics into that and integrity into it. I mean, a key, like one of my core values, well, a couple of, one is authenticity, another one is in integrity. And that is, I'm not going to sell somebody into my work when they're not a fit for me and I can't help them, right, from where they are. And I love that you do that because that shows strong ethics, strong integrity, and true authenticity.
Yeah, and the flip side of that too is I think you can validate this too. It's as much as people that you can help, but there's also people, and I just experienced that in a previous role, is they actually don't want to be helped. Like they think they do, but they like the idea of the outcome, but are not willing to do the steps to get to the outcome. So they truly don't want to be helped. They just think it's a great idea to see if they can get help.
Exactly. I mean, I've had that experience in my years in business, which are 24 years at the beginning of this month, is, taking on clients because I know I can help them and then discovering they don't want the help. I mean, I've been ghosted by clients, not doing their, not coming, not scheduling appointments, all of that. So it's pretty fascinating. And one of the things I learned over the years, because I really care for my clients, I mean, when my clients come on board, I'm their champion, right? And I want to springboard them off from working with me when it's time for them to do so. And I learned you can't care more about their business than them.
Right,
And it applies to
right.
every aspect of life.
Yeah, that's true. And so just talking about, kind of you got this corporate background, you've got what you're doing. How are you attracting clients right now? What's the your outreach method? How are you getting your clients?
So getting my clients is coming through referrals. So building my network and building the right network is really important. So for me to bring people in as clients is referrals and speaking opportunities, and which brings in podcasting as well, which is what I'm just launching into. And then personal touch. For my business, personal touch is really important. And so things for me, automation for me runs in the place of making sure that my emails go out, that when somebody opts in to a lead magnet, that they go through the right process and follow up. That keeps me out of having to do everything personally, and then I can get to know them. So at the right level, having the right CRM, the right automation there is really important. And I'm going to be launching into something new here in the next month to 2 months is I subscribe to the Denver Business Journal. So business journals are all around the country. Well, they have this thing called a book of lists. And once a year, they put out the book of lists with different size businesses. So I'm going to start doing a personal direct mail, not a mass direct mail, but to the businesses that are in the book that are the size that I want to work with. I'm just going to send them letters to let them know who I am and what's available to them. Because with my clients, it's really psychographical. I can't go onto LinkedIn and say, okay, this business, this size, this CEO I want to connect with. That I can't. I can do that. I've tried it. And for me, what I find works best is that if that relationship is introduced and if I connect with others who are collaborators like yourself, people that come across people that could potentially need my services.
Yeah. No, and I think that, I mean, I think that that whole extrapolation of the relationship, and then the other thing is, to your point of being local, there's a lot to be said for that. I've actually had some massive success, and this could be something for you to consider, is the local chamber of commerce. Like, hey, just out there, you get people interacting. I'm doing a webinar for them, that type of stuff, and it just gives you exposure. But to the point that, hey, this is a guy who lives down the street. I kind of know where he lives. I know it's within driving distance. That's one aspect, and it's funny you talk about the personal touch, because that's the other thing that I'm doing. I'm telling people, look, as much as I want to grow this business, I want to keep it personal. So whatever the number of clients that I'm taking on is going to be this size. I was talking to a client. I was talking to a client, and he said, "Oh yeah, and I'm talking to another company because they're right down the street." And I said, "Well, I'm an hour flight away. That's kind of the same thing." Second of all, he wanted to
Right.
set up a meeting and go to their office, and they said, "No, hey, why don't we do it on Zoom?" I was like, "Well, I think I'm just as local as they are." Right? So it's that personal touch aspect of it that you truly want to. I do want to do that. Like I said, I've been in consulting for 30 years. I really like being in front of the customer. So it seems like we have a very similar philosophy there.
Yeah. And the thing what you're talking about there is the personal touch is really that being able to experience you. Some people can do that via Zoom, via email, via LinkedIn messages, social media.
So, folks, we're back again. So, Victoria, maybe we were talking about acquiring clients, and you were sharing that. Um, I think when we spoke originally, you were talking about growing the business, and what are your objectives for the business? Is it for you to keep it just you consulting, or bringing on other people that have similar philosophies as you, and growing it that way? What's the strategy?
So for me, the strategy is to really be able to share my methodology and how it works because it's really complete life, business, and inner self work. And I want to be able to train others to do the same that I do. So my plan to grow business is to really help others do what I do. Haven't decided what the model's going to look like at this point. However, it's really important that, for me, it's really important that business owners know that they can make an impact in the world being who they are, and they don't have to do things old school way. Like the sales is one of the examples we talked about is if you're here to help people, you've got to know that sales are part of it. And you can be authentic and be helpful with the sales. It's not like the old school stuff that you were taught. And so just
Yeah,
really,
educational selling. I think. Yeah, sorry to cut you off there. I think educational selling is an under recognized, especially in what we're doing, right? Whereas, if you have a tool, hey, show me the tool, see if it works for me. I wouldn't say it's an easy sell, but it either works or it doesn't. Whereas if you're helping people with more of this you know, strategy and something that you can't necessarily feel and touch in the sense of a tool, just educating them and giving them two or three things to think about that they hadn't thought about before. I think that's, to me, it seems where people truly, it goes back to the authenticity and integrity
Mhm.
aspect of it. People genuinely say, I mean, I've told people, hey, look at this. I want to tell you three things that you, if you're gonna not pick me, it doesn't matter. For anybody you're looking for, you should ask them these three questions and just do that, because it's going to get you to the answer that you're looking for. And I feel like, again, integrity, authenticity, just it generally comes through.
It really does. And it shows you care and asking the questions, right? To see what they really want, not just assuming. And I think that's where the disconnect often happens is people don't ask enough questions when they're in the sales conversation. They just assume, right? It's like, I want to know what you want. I want to know what outcome you want to achieve because that's going to help me to know whether I can help you or not. And it
Yeah,
really
and I've been
is
taught
about
some of
being
the
of
things too.
service.
Exactly, and some of the things that say, like, you can ask a question. And then the follow-up question is a great question. Why is that important to you? And it sounds silly. Like, for example, somebody says, hey, what's your objective? Well, it's to get more leads. And the answer is, then you ask, like, well, why is that important to you? Now, it sounds like it's obvious because I want to close more deals and I want to get revenue. But generally, it takes you in a direction of, if I don't, I can't hire my first salesperson or whatever it is. There's always that second, this is what's in my head. And I think when you get to that personal aspect and you ask the right questions, to your point, it gets you to where you need to get to. And the listening component of it is very important.
Oh, the listening part of it is so important because there are four different levels of listening. And this is one of the things that I learned when I went through my coaches training is level one is where you're, excuse me, level one is where you are at the place of just trying to think of the next thing you're going to say, right? You're not really here. You might be hearing what someone is saying, but you're not really listening. Your your brain is going off to see what you can say right then and there. Level two is a little bit better, but not much. You're thinking about, you let them talk and then go, oh, how can I address this more from my perspective? And then level three is what a lot of people have been taught is to be able to hear what they're saying and repeat it back. There's been a lot of coaching around that in management and leadership is you regurgitate exactly what they said. And then level four is hearing what they're not saying. It's noticing behind the sound, sometimes the body language, and going, oh, and being able to ask a question from that level four is what really helps you get into the depth and the answers that you're looking for and that they're actually looking for.
Yeah, I think that's it's interesting you say that, because in the corporate world, and I think you can attribute to the, relevance to this too, is it was so busy multitasking. And I felt at the time that same thing, I used to be good at listening, but all I was doing was trying to think about what next to say. And since I've been doing this, and specifically with the podcast, it's forced me, and I'm loving it, to be able to actually sit and listen and understand what somebody's saying. Yes, I'm formulating questions, but at the same time, truly listening has been, it's been a major enlightenment for me, and it's taken me through not only the business, and feel like my personal life too, where I'm doing a much better job of that. I think I need to check with my wife, but I think I am.
It is huge because you hear things in a completely different way when you kind of step back and get a sense of feeling because everybody does not necessarily know how to articulate what they're feeling, what's going on. And it's like their hesitation. It's just like saying, I notice there's some hesitation here. Can you tell me what you're thinking or what's going on? That can change the direction of an entire conversation.
Yeah. We could definitely talk about this for the rest of the day, but we're getting down towards the end of the time. So let's do this again. So tell us the name of your company, your website, how to connect with you on LinkedIn. What just is your little commercial?
Okay. Heart and Soul CEO, Victoria Lynne Hannu, and we work with business owners who are somewhat established, at least established, that are experiencing an inflection point and really want to create a sustainable, stable, growth type business with that's totally in alignment with who they are and be able to have the life that they want as well. And my website
It's a
is Heart
very
and
key
Souls.
component.
Pardon?
I said that's a very key component, having the life they want as well. Sorry, and then you can tell us your website.
It is. Having the life that you want, if you're not happy and you're not living the life that you want, why are you doing what you're doing? It doesn't make sense. So the website is heartandsoulceo.com and Victoria Lynne Hannu on LinkedIn. It's easy to connect with me there as well.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate your time today. I had enjoyed the conversation. I love the enlightenment aspect of it, and I think people can benefit from what you're doing. So again, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for inviting me to be part of your podcast. Love what you do. And I love your approach that authenticity and integrity is so important in this world where everybody and their brother seems to be going after AI, automation without having heart in it. And I love that you have heart in your work.
Appreciate that. Thank you.